Hey YouTube, Ricoknows here. I got some breaking news for you guys. Once again, got this in a DM. I really don't care if somebody else covered this story. I really don't care if you read it somewhere else or heard it somewhere else. That's not what I'm here to do. I had somebody once reach out to me last week and accuse me of stealing stories. That's not me, bro. I really don't give a shit what you talk about. If you talked about it before me, that's on you. I'm going to talk about it from my perspective, and that's that. So, had somebody reach out to me and say, hey, Rico, I got some documents for you to look over. Looked them over. Some pretty damning stuff. If you guys don't know what I'm about to talk about, I want to tell you how to do this. Go to YouTube, search VUL, V-U-L, just like below down here in this graphic, V-U-L, and then space Ricoknows. And you're going to find a video about surviving Virginia University of Lynchburg, surviving VUL. And I'm talking to head coach and athletic director Tim Newman. Now, when I talked to Tim Newman, I made a video and I questioned his bio. And it was a 15-minute long video. And the reason I questioned his bio and his credibility is because this man, I got a lot of DMs. I got a lot of reports and people sending me things saying, Rico, he's the worst. He lied to me. He tricked me into coming to this school. He's this, he's that, he's this. And I'm telling you guys that if I heard those types of things from disgruntled players, I would probably take it with a grain of salt. I would understand that they got an axe to grind and it's okay. But I started getting information from actual coaches who worked underneath this man. And I'm not talking about position coaches. I'm not talking about graduate assistants. I'm talking about head coaches of other sports. Okay? Because he's the athletic director. So I talked to the head coach of the basketball team, the head coach of other teams. I talked to some of his assistants. I think it was Richard Bonds, one of his assistants, invited me to come to the campus and come talk to the players and the coaches and see what they're really about and what they're trying to overcome, because it's a lack of XYZ, right? And whatever that may be. They say there's a lack of resources. It's an HBCU. They give me all these different things. But one thing I did in my previous videos, I questioned this man's credibility. I questioned this man's motives. And I questioned the way his bio was written because it didn't make sense. And just so you guys are aware, he did update his bio. He did go and change it after my video. He cleaned it up. He changed some things. He added some date ranges here and there. But a lot of the gray area is not addressed. Nope, he just has random records that can't be proven. He has random claims to certain records and certain positions. If you guys don't remember, in the original video, he claimed to be a head coach at an all-girls school. And I went and did some research and found out they've never had a football team. And if they did, it was before 2002. And there's no way he was coaching there before 2002. So the whole thing just kind of irked me. This is a man who claimed he played in the NFL. I did research, never played in the NFL. Nope. He was one of these scab players, one of those replacement players when the NFL went on strike in the 80s. And he never signed on the team. He never played. He said he went to a couple of practices. The whole story's been changed 100 times over. So surviving VUL has been an ongoing thing. I want to tell you guys some of the interviews I did with some of the witnesses and the victims. Some guys said, hey, Rico, I'm trying to get another job somewhere else. Please don't use my name. Please keep it private. I think I recorded one. Sweetie, how long was that interview?
45 minutes.
45 minutes, an hour? Yeah, I did one for about an hour, recording the whole thing with the intention of putting it out there. And then at the end of the interview, the gentleman asked me, could you please not use my name, the audio? And I just kind of thought, man, why is everybody afraid of this? But one thing I learned in all the interviews, a couple things I learned. Number one is the school is run by a family. Right? So a lot of the decision makers and the board and all the people who make decisions, like whoever hired this bum, whoever hired Tim Newman to be the head football coach or the athletic director, these people are above reproach. You can't question them because they keep it in the family, and it's one of these things you just can't touch. But in America, there's checks and balances everywhere. And today is the day where checks and balances cash in. So I'm going to show you guys the document that I got sent to me, and we're going to go from there. So if you ever want to catch up on VUL football and what I think of how they're carrying themselves, you can go watch that old video. It is 15 minutes long. You can do a search on Twitter, #SurvivingVUL. I'm sure you will find a number of witnesses and people saying horrific things about the school. Maybe they're all hearsay, but I'm telling you, when I say horrific things, I'm talking about living conditions, work conditions, expectations, maybe false promises. Somebody saying you're going to have financial aid. You get there, you don't. Somebody says we have a scholarship for you for X amount of years. You don't. We're going to help you in this regard. You're not. These guys claim to be a Division I football team. They're not. They do play against Division I opponents. They're the only win certain teams get on the whole schedule. Shout out to Delaware State. Like, when they do play some of these teams, you might look at their schedule and be like, oh, yeah, I want to play that. That's D1. Yeah, they're playing those teams to get stomped out, and then we don't know what happens to the money. Because I got coaches tell me they weren't paid properly. I had one coach tell me, and I'm talking about a coach, a head coach, tell me, Mr. Rico, I had to be the bus driver for my team to get to a game. So not only am I the head coach, but I'm the bus driver. We're not talking about a 15-pack van. We're talking about he drove a bus. We have no physical trainers. Somebody's injured. We have this. We don't have this. We don't have ice machines. We don't have, all the different amenities they're saying. And I'm just sitting there going, how do you expect these kids, these student athletes, to put their bodies on the line, and we don't have the right resources in place? When people ask me, are Division I, is this particular school Division I? Like an FCS school, are they ready for FBS? The big debate was JMU last year. Are they ready for the FBS? The reason they couldn't go to a bowl game is because you have to show financial independence or the ability to provide for your newly acquired athletes, right? You go from 63 scholarships to 85. You now have 22 extra male scholarships. You also acquire 22 female scholarships. Shout out to Title IX. So now you got 44 extra students. That means more buses, more flights, more team doctors, more physicians, more therapy, more tutors, more hotel rooms, more food. More requirements to show your financial commitment in your sports department, and that's how you justify being an FBS program. So it's not like, how good were you on the field? Well, did you win a bunch of games? That's irrelevant. Is your school capable of providing for all of these athletes? You're about to up the number of athletes you're going to take part in, and the more people you add, the more resources you need. You can't just build a new neighborhood and say everybody's going to move in. They need jobs. You can't just get a bunch of new athletes and say, yeah, we're Division I now. They need support. And with those athletes comes a number of logistical things that need to be decided upon. And you can't really do that without the financial commitment from your athletic department or from your entire university, things like this. So this is why moving up to the FBS level is such a big deal. But when you're at this echelon, the VUL Dragons echelon, and you have athletes saying, oh, we don't live in dorms. The school is these two buildings. We practice over here. We have this. We have that. I hear a lot of complaints, and I don't really run with the complaints. I just leave it alone. I get it. It's a he said, she said thing, or a he said thing. It's two sides, two opposing sides. And I've never really taken sides in that regard. I just wanted the athletic director, the head football coach, to stop lying in his bio. Let's just start with that. Stop with the false promises and the false claim that you know how to get to the NFL or you had experience in the NFL, or stop telling them how many games you've won. Stop describing yourself as a Division I program. Any of that stuff. Just stop. Right? You're always, I see it. Every time I see a troubled kid, somebody who's partial academic qualifier, looking for an offer. Remember, I deal with all the players looking for offers. I got over 50 players offers this last recruiting cycle. 50. Just helping them get exposure, putting them on the platform, doing a high school film review for them. I did over 230 high school film reviews this recruiting cycle in 2024. This recruiting cycle, since January to now, over 230. I was doing 2 a day for a while. Now I'm down to 1 a day. I'm just taking a break. But we got everybody their offers that we could. We tried. One thing I noticed is when there was a kid at the very fringe of playing at an elite level, he had an offer from the VUL Dragons. He had an offer, and I was like, whoa. Yeah, it's a false promise. I'm going to go bet on myself. I'm going to the Vols, man. That's Division I. And I'm like, who told you this? I'm not trying to steer them away from an education. I just who told you this? Because what I got is a lot of terrible things. And if you're going to University of Lynchburg, well, let's talk about it. Is it a good education? Because apparently it's not. if you guys haven't read, TRACS, the Transnational Association of Christian Colleges and Schools, TRACS is doing a probationary period for their accreditation. What does that mean? Well, what that means is, guys, is you can open up a school tomorrow. You can say, I'm opening up a school. It doesn't mean anything. If you have a school, the United States has a Board of Education. We have a Board of Education out there. It's a part of the government. It's a huge-ass building in D.C., right? You have the Board of Education. And the Board of Education has empowered certain accreditations, these things right here, this accreditation, right? These commissions, these committees, they've empowered them to evaluate and validate education across the country. So now, if you're a university within that particular area of operation, you answer to this board that will say whether or not your college classes are really college equivalent. Your college degree is really that of an esteemed college. And you'll hear people say things like, we are nationally accredited, we're regionally accredited. Regionally is better than national. And the biggest thing you want to do is ensure the university you're going to has its accreditation. That's essential. And every year, every now and then, schools will lose their accreditation, meaning they can no longer give out viable degrees. There are online schools all over the place. Yeah, I mean, you can get a degree from somewhere. Some vocational school, some Bible school of some sort. They'll give you a degree. You get a paper that says you got a bachelor's degree from there. If it's not accredited, doesn't count, bro. You're just taking classes. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your money. And it doesn't count. Okay? Nobody cares. They don't respect it. And it's just the way the Board of Education is ensuring that everybody's on the same playing field. Now, obviously, some degrees are more valuable than others. Some have more notoriety than others. Shout out to Stanford, Northwestern, Vanderbilt. You know, there's schools out there that have amazing programs and degrees. And then there's those schools that are fighting for accreditation. So the process is you will be put on probation initially. You will be given a SMART goal. And I say a SMART goal meaning it is specific, it is measurable, right? It is applicable or attainable. It's realistic, and then they give you a timestamp for it, SMART goal. And when you get these SMART goals, you got to go out and knock it out. So as I read this accreditation warning here, it's a warning, if you will. It's a accredited probation status. This is a warning. It's pretty scary if you're a student at University of Lynchburg. This means your degree potentially may mean nothing by the time you graduate. Right now, you're still okay. The classes still count. Everything still counts, but they're on probation. And if they don't meet the specifications, they're out of here. Now, what are the specifications? What do they have to meet? If you go to the second page, it says it right here. Specifically, the commission found that VUL could not demonstrate compliance with TRACS standard financial operations. I need you guys to understand what that means. I don't care how they tap dance around it. I don't care what a university president says or whatever. It means they're mishandling funds. This happens at HBCUs all over America. They're notorious for this. There just isn't the proper bookkeeping. Somebody just comes up with some money and it's missing. And when you tell me the university is run by a family, you tell me there are certain coaches not getting paid what they were promised. You got a head football coach that also serves as the athletic director. There are multiple avenues of approach when it comes to misconduct, fraud, non-compliance. But what it really comes down to is understanding that they probably have not audited themselves. They probably have not checked their own books and proved it to themselves. So it says here, VUL is required to submit its June 30, 2023 audit to the TRACS standard. You got to do it. Don't tell us you're good. We got to see the bank account, and we got to see every single transaction you're making. VUL is required to provide a plan for operations through a restricted cash flow environment and document available resources to carry out this plan. Once again, when I told you schools transition to the FBS level, They are not allowed to take bowl money. That's why they can't play in a bowl game. That's why they don't get to play for the conference championship, because they cannot augment their resources and their budget with this extra money. They need to show the conference that they can be self-sustaining without that money. Because what if you make it to a bowl game and then you show them in your first 3 years, look, we're self-sustaining, we got it, we're good, because you're in that probationary period initially. But what if you go on a drought and don't make it to a bowl game for 10 years? Are you still capable of functioning and maintaining the same financial, hygiene, the same financial health in your program? So you have to show that to the FBS and to the NCAA when you transition for a number of years. Well, here, they're saying this is essentially to VUL. You need to show us, the accreditation arm, you need to show us that you can do this with restricted cash flow, meaning you got your own money, meaning the student's tuition keeps you running. We don't want to hear about grants. We don't want to hear about all this other shit. We want to see if you can be self-sustaining. And they're going to have to show the plan. In addition to its annual operation report, right? An institution on probation must submit regular reports to TRACS specifically detailing its progress towards demonstrating compliance with the specified accreditation standards. If you misuse money and you're mishandling money, you're a corrupt organization. You're a corrupt school, okay? And there's no way to tell us that you're not unless you show us your books. So the audit needs to take place. Third-party audit. Somebody else needs to come in and check your books. Don't show me your stuff. Let somebody else look at it. What I'll tell you guys is VUL is required to submit an updated compliance report addressing track standards, right? 11.2 and 17.12. And any other reports of information required by track staff. No later than September 1st of 2024. Now, you're on probation for 1 year. You can ask for a 6-month extension, only one extension, and you're not guaranteed that extension. There needs to be some justification for it. But what I would warn every student who plans to enroll at VUL to be a student, I'm not just talking about athletes, I'm talking about students. You may potentially be taking college classes that will not count towards a degree, that other universities will not count as transfer credits. So while it's still accredited, while it's still in probationary period, I would highly recommend you transfer out of that university. I would highly recommend you go find an accredited school with none of this compliance issues, corruption, mistreatment of people. Like, just get away from it all. I promise you. I've talked to enough employees, past employees, student athletes, past student athletes. I've talked to enough people to know that when there's smoke, there's fire. This is a much bigger issue than just, I don't like the coach. They treated me wrong. He lied to me. He put me on the bench. No. This is about going to college for X amount of years and none of it counting. That's the reality of the situation. So please do not find yourself in that situation. I wish you well. Good luck to everybody. Shout out to the people who give me this information in my DMs to some extent. But shout out to me, because I'm never going to stop telling the truth. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Peace, y'all.